had a few questions. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was born and raised in Ohio, and I moved to North Carolina when I was 18 after I graduated from high school. And I had a summer job, and I never left. So I guess that's been about 46 years ago. I started working at Catholic Charities. I did get my master's as an older adult, my undergraduate as an adult, and then my master's as an adult. So I started working 16 years ago with Catholic Charities as a counselor. I am a mom of two. They're 10 years apart. I have an autistic son who's 26 and my daughter's 36. And I have 4 grandchildren, which are fun.
Okay, thank you very much. Then
Sure.
I will start with the first question, and
Okay.
it's how have you been communicating with patients, and have you had any difficulty with your communication platform?
Well, when the pandemic hit in March, we initially stayed in touch with our clients by telephone and just did check-ins. We weren't really doing therapy. And in the meantime, we got our paperwork online and appropriate paperwork that we needed to have for telehealth. And the agency purchased DoxyMe, which is a HIPAA compliant platform to use for counseling. So probably 3 weeks in, it was maybe the 1st of April, we were able to offer that to our clients, and they were very grateful because obviously, they still wanted to have their sessions, and even though they wanted to be face to face, it was still a way that they could continue having their services.
Is the platform like similar to Zoom or?
It is. I send a link. I have a calendar invite that I send, and I send the link to the client either the day before or the morning of their session, and they can access it through um, the computer or through their iPhone. It works. So that makes it very convenient. The one thing they have loved is how convenient it is to attend therapy.
So do you think you might continue that, like when the pandemic's over, to reach out?
Yes, yes, we do. And it has allowed us to reach more people in the diocese. So we definitely will continue and we still don't know when we will return to face, but we will continue telehealth.
Have you had an increase in patients due to COVID-19 or decrease?
We've actually stayed and remained about the same number as before. Um, Most of the clients that we were seeing face to face have continued. We might have lost one or two that didn't want to. Some folks have jobs where they're on the computer all the time, and they just didn't want to try telehealth. But no, our numbers have been about the same.
That's interesting. Do you think it's just because I would have thought there'd be an influx of people due to COVID-19? Um, have people been more stressed lately because of it?
They have. What I think that it has done with the majority of clients is added another stressor, a lot of fears coming up, social isolation causing, maybe relationship challenges. So it's actually added to some of the clients' challenges that they were already dealing with.
And I guess to build off that previous question, have you really noticed any specific issue that became more prevalent during COVID-19 with your patients?
Well, I would identify two, just kind of fears, increase in being fearful of just the pandemic and getting ill. And then also the isolation. That's been a real difficult thing for folks to have the restriction for so long of not being able to go out. And of course, that's eased up some, but there's still a lot of hesitation in folks not rush into being out and about too much.
Is the fear of the virus itself, or is it more the change in life that you see in your patients?
I guess I would say of the virus and of getting ill, particularly the older clients that I have. The younger ones, that's not so much. The younger clients, it's more the social isolation.
What are the age ranges you
I see 18 to elderly. The oldest client I have is probably 80s.
So
I
other
don't
than
see children. Go
so
ahead.
I apologize for the background. So other than having to meet with people online, have you noticed that you've had to modify your treatment in any other way?
Well, I typically, when folks are face to face with me, I often give handouts, and sometimes, just utilize a whiteboard or something like that. And so the switch has been, kind of dealing with the technology of scanning things in that I can share my screen, learning the technology, share my screen, navigating things on my desktop. That's kind of been one of the challenges is, I like to, expose people to books, bibliotherapy or worksheets.
Has
So
it
that's,
been hard for you to like modify? Because I know a big part of like therapy and is reading someone's body language. Has that been affected by your ability like to not see someone's full body language?
a little bit. I sometimes have to ask folks to, adjust how they're sitting or where they're sitting, um, step back some so I can see. So it's been tricky, but I've really gotten accustomed to dealing with that and being able to sense, because a lot of the expression, the body language is expression, from the chest up.
did you know a lot of your clients, or are you getting new ones now?
I've had several referrals. Actually, probably in the last 2 months or so, I've had a new referral every week, and then I continue with a caseload. My caseload is probably 40, 42 at this point.
Is it hard to get to know someone originally online? Do you see any downfalls with that?
I think I think I've not seen, it's not been too difficult for me. Um, the new clients have been fairly relaxed, and if the technology holds up, sometimes we don't have as clear a connection, or their Wi-Fi isn't as good and so forth. But no, I feel like it's been adequate for me.
So because of all the limitations and modifications you've had to make, have you noticed any major emotional impact with your clients?
Um,
I guess to clarify that a bit more, like any kind of decline because of the increased amount of isolation and limitations that they have to go through.
yes, it has challenged people to sort of, I guess if you're asking, go backwards a little bit from maybe how well they were functioning before. It's just kind of added another level of issues to deal with in therapy. They may have made some good strides in their original goals, and then this has just added some more challenges to daily, functioning and satisfaction of life events and so forth.
With those declines, on the opposite, have you noticed anyone actually improve, or is it all everyone together kind of having that decline?
Not everyone. Um, but a significant number of folks. And actually now, as the shots opportunities for getting vaccinated have come, I'm seeing more hopeful, more planning, more hope, future planning, and more hopeful attitudes with folks. So I think that the spring coming is helpful as well. Warmer weather is helpful.
So, have you noticed that COVID has also taken an effect on you, like not just as a therapist, but how you interact with people and like your patients?
Well, for me, I certainly shrunk my world down to, limiting where I went, um, and yet I was able to actually stay working in the office because we just have two people here, and so my coworker was able to. She worked from home. She has children, and so I was able to come in here, and that really helped me because I was getting out of the house, and I recognized that right away. That it was helping me deal with it a little better because I kind of kept my normal routine. Um, Now I'm working 2 days a week out of my home and 2 days in the office, and I really feel the difference. It feels really good to get up and come into the office.
Was it weird to go back into the office?
It was a little bit when I came back was during a time where we were pretty much on a lockdown, and so most people that I was considered an essential worker, so I was allowed out on the streets, but it was like a ghost town there for a while.
I have a
Um,
question for you. Has COVID-19 made it harder for you to get prescriptions for your patients?
No, they have not reported any difficulties with that. The difficulties that a few folks have had is, job loss and inability to get their prescriptions, or the challenge of, living on unemployment, which was changing their income.
so I know that some people might like if you're in the office, you might get up in between patients and have that break period where you're able to physically put yourself away from your last patient's problem, focus on your next patient. Has that been affected with you from like for working at home?
I have found that with telehealth, I think this is what you're asking, I have to remember to get up in between clients, or if the clients are back to back, to make sure that when I have a break, that I get up and get away from the computer and go, walk around the office or go out. There's a walkway here near the office. Um, Whereas before I was moving around more because I'd walk them to the waiting room, or get them from the waiting room. So yes, I've had to force myself to move more.
Do you have a lot of colleagues in your workforce?
Well, in Catholic Charities, we have 4 counselors, one in Asheville, one in Greensboro, and I also cover Winston-Salem, and 2 in Charlotte. And so if you're talking about the agency, there's 4 of us.
Have you had sort of a disconnection between your colleagues, or have you guys grown together with the pandemic?
We have grown together. We used to just see each other about once a year, or maybe 3 times a year for chart reviews. And our counseling supervisor was spot on by us starting to meet weekly. So we started having weekly staff meetings, and it's been a tremendous help. We've now moved it to more like I guess we're doing it once a month now. Part of that's because we're so busy too. but it's been a real connector for us. It's been very supportive.
Would you say it changed that for the better?
Yes.
And have you seen any other positive changes with COVID in addition to your colleagues and virtual platforms?
Well, I think the biggest positive I've experienced is being able to reach more people and to be able to continue with the telehealth. Had we not had the computer, this would have been so different for us and for our clients. So the telehealth has been the most positive thing that came out of COVID. And prior to that, we weren't even thinking about telehealth and doing it that way. And now it's going to be, part of our regular offerings.
So would you say telehealth actually allows you to maybe see your patients more often, right? Because they don't have to drive out or anything like that?
I'll tell you what it has done is we have less no-shows. It hasn't, I mean, I still see them the same amount of time, but because I can zoom right into their home and they don't have to drive, they have stayed more compliant with attendance.
I guess that's good.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we touched up on this, but do you think the pandemic will have a lasting effect on their mental health? Or will they just sort of brush it off later?
I think they will get through it. I don't think they'll forget. I don't think any of us will forget. And because I think it has been a time that has tested to see what our resiliency could be and our patience and, basic resiliency of how we would manage to get through this.
You work for the Charlotte Diocese. So how do you think the pandemic has affected people on a spiritual level?
Well, the things that I've heard from clients is it's been very hard most people want to get up and go to mass. I don't know any situations where it has decreased their faith, but it has encouraged them to find other ways to feed themselves spiritually when they couldn't go to mass. And thankfully there were these other outlets too on Zoom or the computer.
How do you mix in religion with your treatment?
If the client wants to talk about it or bring something to me, if it is impacting perhaps what they're dealing with, their challenges, we will discuss it. But as a mental health counselor, I'm approaching it not necessarily from a spiritual angle, but from clinical symptoms and diagnoses. But they're welcome to share what their struggles are, and sometimes the recommendation is they may need to go talk to their priest.
Is there any conflict with being a religious counselor?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a religious counselor, so I'm not sure what you mean, because I'm a trained mental health counselor, but I can talk to them about their spirituality and their religion. Make sure that if someone has a spiritual concern that they go to their priest or someone in their parish that could address those issues with them.
Have you noticed any previously concluded or previous problems or issues become more noticeable or come up that they've overcome and I guess just drudged up over COVID?
I think in a few cases yes, that it's exacerbated some symptoms that may have already been worked through, but it's brought them back up or added more to them. And I think that would be through being isolated, maybe relationship challenges that they didn't have before that it brought up.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have one more, mainly in terms of your clinical work and relation to the diocese and spiritual work. How much of an overlap is there? Are they two entirely separate entities, or do they end up kind of merging, especially when dealing with patients?
Well, they are two separate things since I'm trained as a clinical mental health therapist and not as, a spiritual counselor. But it's part of every one of my clients, their body, mind, and spirit, their whole self. So, it gets addressed. But in terms of counseling, spiritual counseling, that's when we would refer them to, seek that help through their priest or their parish.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So pretty much you guys handle the clinical side of it, and then if they have a religious thing, you would send them off to their priest to
Exactly.
that way.
Exactly. You said that very well, Spencer.
Well, if nobody else has any questions, do you have any questions for us?
Are you all seniors?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell me a little bit more about this project?
This is for the past 4 years, they've documented, well, not documented, they've interviewed people that have had an impact in the diocese, and they put it onto is it the diocese website or is it the bishop website?
It goes onto the diocese and the bishop website, and students are supposed to interview a special person in the diocese about a given topic. And our given topic, of course, for this year was COVID, so that's why a lot of the questions have been COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just supposed to learn about you and about how you've been affected or how just a little bit, and it's supposed to be a conversation. And it's called the Archive Project because it is archived into the diocese, and it's for anyone to view once I edit it and finish it. And then there's a documentation of 2020, 2021.
Are you guys all in a certain class that does this?
Religion.
Your religion class? Well, I think it's
Yeah,
a great thing. Sounds
Yeah.
yeah, I
great.
think it'll be interesting to go back and then look at what people had to say about 2020, right?
Yeah,
You don't have that for the Spanish flu or anything.
that's right.
Yeah. The whole project is outstanding because we're basically documenting a major point in history right now.
Yeah, you really are. It's really great.
I think it's going to be time to call it a close. You've been a great help. Thank you. It was lovely hearing about how the pandemic has affected your experience as a psychiatrist. And I think I can say for everyone that it was a pleasure speaking with you.
It was really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your day to let us learn a little bit about how COVID's affected you, a little more about yourself. It's been very nice.
Well, thank you for asking me. I feel very honored, and I look forward to being able to go on the website and check it out when you're done.
Yep. Thank you for your time.
We can
Thank you, guys. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you for your time. It was very nice to meet you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.